Welcome back. All right, so previewing the 13 games for Saturday. It's going to be a busy day. It starts at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. The Boston Bruins 6-5 in against the New Jersey Devils at 7-3-2, and I'll go ahead and put like a bit of a power ranking spin on this. If Boston loses to New Jersey tomorrow, there will be a market correction for Boston. Absolutely. Their next games against one another will be January 4th and March 31st. So, should be interesting. Boston, New Jersey, of course. Teams that played each other in the playoffs numerous times. I do remember New Jersey winning a lot. So, yeah, we'll see how things go tomorrow. Also at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, we all knew that Toronto should be competitive this year, right? They're 9-5-1. We did not expect Buffalo to stay relevant. 6-5-2. Huge win over the Oilers. Now they got Toronto coming in. How are they going to do against Toronto? Of course, they have the game in March that's going to be in Hamilton. Who knows? Maybe that game will be important too. They play 3 more times after tomorrow, March 2nd, March 13th, as well as April 12th. So this should be an interesting rivalry. There have been times where Toronto's had a hard time with Buffalo. There have been times where Buffalo's had a hard time with Toronto. Let's see how things work out this year. Also at 7 o'clock Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, and there are a lot of games starting at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, and then, yeah, it's going to be a very busy night for me. The Pittsburgh Penguins in against the Ottawa Senators. Pittsburgh 5-3-4 on the season. So it's been a rough go, but obviously they're missing a lot of players, right? And they're in against Ottawa at 3-9-1. And they'll be without Pettersson. They'll be without Ruedel, who tested positive too recently, and therefore would not be eligible to play in Canada. So they're staying in the States, and so Pittsburgh's going to be going with a very similar roster to their last game as well. December 31st and January 20th are the other 2 games that will be played between these teams. And yeah, should be an interesting one tomorrow night. I didn't see anybody else go on the protocol list today for Ottawa, and of course that's really good news if nobody else goes on the protocol list, because then eventually you start getting everybody back, as the team on this board is going to get tomorrow. So, hopes are still there for Ottawa. 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, also Montreal in against Detroit. This is the third and final meeting. So both of the first 2 were in Montreal. Montreal wins October 23rd, 6-1. Montreal wins November 2nd, 3-0. Detroit's good at making Montreal feel good about themselves. Let's see how tomorrow night works. Montreal's now at 4-10-1. Dallas. I want to say Dallas. Detroit. If I said Dallas already, probably have. 7-6-2 for Detroit. So, yeah, we'll see how things go for the Wings. Then at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific as well, the Florida Panthers and the Tampa Bay Lightning go at it. So October 19th was the first meeting. Florida won that 4-1. This should be a lot of fun because I think Tampa's playing better than they were October 19th. Florida's coming off of a few games where they didn't win, and so we'll see how things work tomorrow. They meet 2 more times after tomorrow, December 30th and April 24th. Also at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. The New York Rangers, these guys right here, in against the Columbus Blue Jackets. They met October 29th. That was the infamous shutout for Shesterkin, 4-0. Since then, Columbus has gone to 7-4. The Rangers are 7-3-3. We'll see how things go tomorrow. This is the second out of 3 meetings. Their third and final meeting will be January 27th. Also at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, the LA Kings in against the Winnipeg Jets. October 28th, of course, Winnipeg wins 3-2 over the LA Kings. The third and final meeting between these teams will be on April 2nd. The Kings are looking to keep this winning streak going. If they can hit 8 games, I tell you, it's going to be a nightmare for that board I'm looking at for that power rankings board part of things. But yeah, so Winnipeg 7-3-3. We'll see how things go against the LA Kings, who have shown that they can score some upsets. And then at 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 Pacific, Carolina will be playing against St. Louis. Carolina coming off of a loss, thus. Again, the top 3 teams on the board from last week were Florida, Carolina, and Edmonton. As I'm speaking to you, those are still your top 3 teams on the board, but we'll see, because if St. Louis can beat Carolina, that puts them in that conversation, doesn't it? Because St. Louis is 9-2-2. This is the first of 2 meetings. They will also meet on March 26th. Then at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, the Arizona Coyotes, who are now 1-12-1. Oof. 14 games and 1 win. Nashville 8-5-1. This is the first of 3 meetings. For Nashville, is it a trap game? I guess. I can't say it with a straight face. For Arizona and Nashville, they'll meet 3 times altogether. They will meet on January 8th and April 29th. So they finish the season against one another because April 29th is the end date for the season. Also at 8 o'clock Eastern, 5 o'clock Pacific. That's right, we will have all of these games on at the same time. Philadelphia in against Dallas. Philadelphia 7-3-2. Have to feel great coming off that win over Carolina. Dallas 4-6-2. Not feeling great about anything right now. This is the first of 2 meetings. They will meet again on January 24th. Right now, Dallas resigned to what is likely bottom row status. They would need a victory over Philadelphia and some teams ahead of them to lose in order to move up. That's the part of the whole rankings board too, right? If everybody wins or everybody loses, it's kind of, I mean, you can make a minor change here and there, but it's kind of like, well, everybody won. Good for you. So yeah, we'll see how things work out tomorrow with Philadelphia and Dallas. Can Dallas score goals? It'll probably be Martin Jones. Martin Jones, normally in a regular season, you'd look at and say, well, that's the weaker goaltender. This year, Jones has been very good. 9 o'clock Eastern, 6 o'clock Pacific, we will have the San Jose Sharks and the Colorado Avalanche. So there aren't as many late games, so I will be able to pay a lot more attention to the 3 games that start later, which is good because San Jose is getting everybody back. Colorado still without Nathan MacKinnon, and a 7-5-1 record for San Jose, not bad. The 5-5-1 record for Colorado, there's a lot of pressure there. So this is the first of 3 meetings. They'll meet again on March 18th and March 31st. And then at 10 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock Pacific, yay, all these games are done so I can pay all this attention to Vancouver, who are 5-7-2 and against the heating up Vegas Golden Knights, who are 8-6. All right, this is the first of 4 meetings. For Vancouver, they'll be trying to bounce back from a 7-1 loss. The good news is when teams get embarrassed like that, usually they will bounce back, have a much better game, and sometimes they even win them. So they'll meet again at Vancouver on April 3rd, at Vegas on April 6th, and at Vancouver on April 12th. I thought it was interesting that they meet 3 times in 9 days in April. So for Vegas, who are expected to still be part of the top 3 in the Pacific Division, Vancouver could play a role in preventing it or putting them there with those 3 games in April. We'll see. And of course for Vancouver, if they're going to make it to the playoffs, those 3 games in April could be really key for them. And then the last game on the board, 10 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock Pacific, the Minnesota Wild in against Seattle. Seattle had a victory on October 28th over Minnesota 4-1. And so Minnesota will look to avoid that trap again in Seattle. And they meet a 3rd and final time, guessing that one's in Minnesota, on April 22nd. So there you go. Let me know your winners in the comment section below, who you think's going to win these games. I will say this, the first month of the season has really shown us, at least it's shown me, that there is tremendous parity in the NHL. So while a few teams get off to really good winning streaks to start the season, now we're starting to see them get clawed back. We're seeing teams that are, you know, in the 3rd column on a power rankings board or just below the playoff line in your regular standings, who are actually playing relatively well and could absolutely get themselves into a playoff spot. I think that it's much cloudier than it is most seasons right now as to who will or won't make the playoffs. The 3-point game helps, though. The 3-point game means that one team gets a win and the other team doesn't really take a loss. So it does kind of cloud some records and might make them look a little better than what they are. But hey, that's part of the fun, right? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.